let's take a look at another model of representation. This is Burke's idea of delegate and trustee representation. Now, when our representatives go to the House or the Senate, they can either be highly responsive to us as constituents, or they can be more focused on national needs and trends. So if we think about the representatives we looked up last week, so your representative in Congress, you can think about you as one of their constituents, right? You're in their district, you are one of their constituents. And for these purposes, we're really using that outer circle in Fenno's model of concentric constituencies, the sort of geographic constituents. So you are one of your representative's constituents. So think about that representative and think about a hypothetical bill in Congress to improve municipalities' subway systems. So Congress is saying we are going to give every place in America that has a subway system some money to help improve it. Now, that's going to be great for your constituents, right? You are representing New York City, presumably, and everyone hates the MTA. Everyone would like more money being invested to make this better. So you think, yes, I'm definitely going to vote for this because I am acting as a delegate and I was sent to Congress by my constituents to help them, to bring money back to our district, to do things that will improve their lives. Now, on the other hand, your representative could say, you know what? On second thought, I'm not really a delegate. I'm a trustee. And while this is important for my district and my constituents, there's very few places in the US with subway systems. And this money would be better spent serving a national interest like improving the interstate highway system, right? These interstate highways connect major cities in the US, they connect all our states, they connect us nationally, where subways connect, a couple cities just to themselves, right? It's not like we're connecting different subway systems. And nationally, it just makes more sense to spend money on interstate highways than it does on a couple cities' subway systems. So I am going to vote against this bill because I am acting as a trustee focused on national needs or trends, working towards this collective goal. Now, obviously, these are sort of extremes, right? And not all Congress members or senators behave only as delegate or only as trustee. And sometimes in moments they're kind of behaving as both or neither, if you think about it. And we're going to actually look at an example from before our Congress, right? When we looked at the Continental Congress before the Declaration of Independence, we learned that the delegates from New York to the Continental Congress really acted like these delegates in delegate mode of representation, in that they were instructed when they went to the Continental Congress not to vote for independence. So they didn't. Remember, New York was the only one of the 13 colonies to abstain from the vote. Now, they weren't totally delegates, though. You could also conceive of them as being trustees, because rather than vote no, they abstained. And this allowed that national interest, the collective goal of independence, to move forward. If they'd voted no, that would have killed the bill, or not bill, I guess, it killed the proposition, because we knew that for the Declaration of Independence to actually come to fruition, needed to be unanimous. So if anyone had voted no, it wouldn't have happened. So they acted as trustees in favor of this national need or trend for actually having the Declaration of Independence. So you can see that there are delegates in some sense, trustees in others. So this isn't always clear cut. And that's why we tend to use this hybrid Politico model. And that's actually probably the most realistic of the models. While Burke talks about these sort of extremes, these typologies of delegate versus trustee, most will behave somewhere in the middle, this Politico hybrid model. And one way that they can navigate the sort of tension between sometimes being delegates and sometimes being a trustee is presentation of self, right? This is Fenno's term for basically saying, hey, I'm like you. I'm from your district. Bear with me here, kind of a thing, right? I know you may not be happy with this bill about interstate highways. I get it. I'm from New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I know how much y'all hate the MTA. I do too. But we've got to focus on interstate highways because that's also what connects us to everywhere else in the country. So while it's great to put funding into the subways, we really need this national system to be looked after, right? Because as a New Yorker, I know how important that system is too. See how I kept saying, like, as a New Yorker, right? A native New Yorker? That's an example of presentation of self. Also, an example of descriptive representation being used to maybe help with substantive representation, right? The descriptor in that case is where you're from. If your Congress member is from New York, if they've grown up here and you've grown up here, they're similar to you in that way. They're probably going to have similar interests, and therefore they're probably going to be pretty good at representing you the way you would want to be represented. So that descriptive representation can lead to substantive representation. Substantive representation. And in this case, we know that maybe it's not exactly what you would have done, but because of this presentation of self, this expression of, look, I am like you, I am descriptively representing you, maybe you can come around to seeing how this may still be substantive representation. And maybe you're not. Maybe you're just like, no, I really wanted the MTA funded. I don't even drive. Like, I don't care about the interstate highway system. But maybe you'll cut them some slack because of this presentation of self.